I'm Neil Rosser, and I'm with Daniel Weyman, who's just been reading the Christopher Isherwood novel, Prater Violet. Very enjoyable, beautiful reading, Daniel. What did you feel about it?
That's very sweet of you. Yes, it was a fun read, that, wasn't it? I don't get many books that are just a day, and to read a complete story in a day. And it didn't feel like a short story either. I found it pretty enjoyable, really. I thought that there's a lot of humour in it. We follow the central character. It's written from his perspective. So Christopher is talking about his experience as a sort of, writer of some renown, I suppose, but not much renown. And as he goes through his sort of home life, he gets this call, which is going to change things up for him, to possibly be a screenwriter or part screenwriter on a new film that's being done. And he, generally feels this is probably beneath proper writers, and goes into it with all sorts of different preconceptions. But the book then examines those through a very funny lens. He's able to poke fun at himself, isn't he? I loved his very dry moments where he's able to turn on a sixpence and sort of cut himself down to size.
It's interesting that he can laugh at himself, but he doesn't laugh so much at the film world. Yes, there's humour in the novel about that, but say someone like P.G. Wodehouse, writing about Hollywood when he went there in the 1930s, he was pretty scathing about it.
Yeah, although what I thought he did really well, it's funny because I just finished filming the third season of the Rings of Power, this Amazon Prime show, and we've been filming largely in studios, which is new for me. Most of my stuff has been season 1 and season 2 was on location. But so getting into a studio and spending a long time in the studio world, I thought that Isherwood has pulled out some of the really joyous things about filmmaking. And within a short story, rather than just ripping it to pieces, some of the wonder I think he gets across, like the epic scale of these things, the fact that sets are this weird amalgamation of totally unfinished from one side and completely real looking and finished and actually like a town square or something on the other. The way that a little circle of light might illuminate a scene that's going on in a very delicate way in this vast hangar. The way that lighting notes are being shouted by one person to another, but when the boss talks to the underling who is going to shout them up, they're whispering. It was like he was looking through this sort of prism of first-time wonder, first-time joy, the aura of this world that goes on behind closed doors. I thought it was great.
I've come to know a number of other Isherwood novels by having directed the audiobook recordings over the last few months, and I feel that this one is far less cynical in some ways, and certainly about the relationships between people. Yeah, again, there is humour. The leading lady is quite a prima donna, but a lot of the characters, particularly such as Bergman, the main character, the film director, is treated with some care.
He really is, isn't he? Yeah. And it's interesting because the book, when we come towards the end, there's this sort of slightly out-of-body experience that he has, Christopher Isherwood has, walking back from a party, and his feelings about Bergman really sort of come through there, don't they? That he's had this resonance of the father figure. Christopher Isherwood's father has been absent in the whole book, whilst his mother and brother, who he still lives with, are very present. So I wonder if that's where that all comes from.
Yes, he does say, doesn't he? He's my father, I'm his son.
Yeah, and there's something even from the first time he sees Bergman in the restaurant from behind. There's something about his size and his scale. He describes him as a Roman emperor, like a Roman statue, again and again and again. Yeah, I thought they were quite telling.
And yet also he's got this convoluted way of looking at and describing Bergman as a funny foreigner. So Isherwood is looking at himself as an author, I think, isn't he?
Yeah.
The way he himself treats his characters.
That's right, and having inspiration, from the idiosyncrasies of these different people who he meets. Yeah. And then it was interesting then as the audiobook narrator as to how, because obviously I have to put something on these words, whether my own self, even if I were to read it utterly bland without any expression, it would still have something on it. There's always a choice. And so I think one of the fun things when you read audiobooks is trying to work out whether what you're bringing is appropriate for the book, whether you're commenting too much, whether you're not commenting enough. Character voices have to be made. There's always a choice there. And so with this book, I thought there was a lot of colour. Dickens once talked about his characters being almost like filament bulbs burning brightly, just at the point before they go out because they burnt too brightly. And I think there's something about that in this book, that when you get to these characters both in the film studio and at other places, that they are very, very vividly painted. The colours are bright and they are, they're not garish, but they have to affect you by the fact they don't just shrink into the sort of backdrop.
At the end, there's this sudden musing about the whole point of life, and it's quite extraordinary, that section.
Yeah, and it's interesting because the first time I read it, when I prepped it, I was slightly unsure as to where that fell, how we came to that. It felt a little bit abrupt when I read it on the page, but when I spoke it out loud with you, and you were keeping me on the straight and narrow and helping me direction-wise, I feel much more that after that party that they both attended, where there's been this exhaustion of the filming process, that when it finally wraps, they've had this release of emotion about the fact that, yes, they've done it and they've accomplished something. And then we all know probably that feeling of going home after the party, 4 a.m. it is, they're wandering the streets of London. He describes those beautifully, I think, the wetness of the road, and, the way the moon is out. And so getting into really embodying that, I think it's totally justifiable that he has that kind of, what on earth am I going to do in the rest of my life that has that, the kind of level of connection that I've just been through with Bergman. Yes. That's the reason that he gets onto this idea of love. So, yeah, it really came across the second time I read it, I think.
As a producer, I felt this quite a lot. At the end of an audiobook or a radio series or whatever project I've been doing, you do feel this huge sadness that it's over, it's gone.
And also the things that, and I know people in our industry are always criticised for being lovies and darlings, but I do think that we form connections with people, and that over the creative process, we often see the best in each other. We often find those lovely resonances with other people that we are going to be very sad about losing at the end of you can't possibly stay in touch with everybody. You can't possibly be the best friend of everybody you ever work with. And that journey is quite sad in itself, isn't it, I think? And maybe there's some of that he's thinking about as he's sort of saying goodbye to Bergman. Just what can they say to each other? How can they possibly sum up all the things they feel about each other?
And at the end, it's just a couple of lines.
It really is.
Bergman went to Hollywood and that's it.
Yeah, and I felt it was interesting to hear that last sentence, he went to Hollywood with his family, and the date, I found quite moving. I found, although again, not much detail, but we've had all this other detail through the book about the state of the world in the 1930s. Yeah. To hear at what date he got to America, I found quite, I felt I could breathe easy.
And coming to you now, Daniel, you've read a lot of audiobooks, haven't you? And what was it like when you started out doing them?
Yes, I mean, I remember the first one I got, not knowing how it was done or, whether I'd enjoy it. In fact, the first ones were very stressful. I remember being very worried about time pressure and thinking, am I reading? I think most audiobook readers probably are very aware of their mistakes, how often they fluff stuff. And I think it's difficult when you don't have much experience to know whether you're doing what's expected or needed. And over the last 20 years, that's managed to reduce in my psyche to a place where I enjoy the telling of the story. I'm much kinder to myself, I think, when I'm reading them. And I do love reading them. I feel like I get paid some money to sit in a really small box and I can turn everything else off and just retreat into this imaginary world, which the writer gives me all the tools to make more and more vivid. And yeah, I sort of find myself sometimes almost with eyes closed reading because I sort of feel it. It's a weird experience, but I really enjoy it. And also you get to read such varied stuff. One day you might be doing a crime thriller and the next you might be doing some non-fiction thing about mathematics.
And some of those are a bit daunting, I must admit.
The graphs that I always find difficult to take. How do you do the audio version of this graph?
Well, having recorded a huge book about dark matter, that was a time when I was trying to direct an actor, but thinking, I don't really understand very much of this at all. And the poor actor didn't either.
Yeah.
And that's a real problem when you take on a book that's so complex.
Yes, I think that's true. And there can be times when the real prep work is trying to find the through line of a very long sentence with many different sort of parentheses all over the place and things that you can understand on the written page. It's very difficult to keep them afloat and then have a long bracket and then come back to them in the audio world. I think there's a lot of work that we do, generally voice actors do, to try and keep that present for a listener who is only able to hear inside their own brain. It's not as easy as when you've got the book to just keep looking over.
back to your career, I remember I first saw you in Foyle's War, which I loved.
Just gone onto Netflix, I noticed
Has
last
it?
week. Yes, I was like, whoa, hello, what's going on here?
Well, it seems to me that when I look at the TV channels, that it's playing somewhere
Yes,
at some point.
I know.
Every second of the day.
It's that, Vera and Silent Witness, I sort of feel are the ones where there's always something on. But yeah, Foyle's War was really great. That was the first TV series that I'd been involved in. I'd done sort of guest appearances, but that was the first thing that I went on, and we did, multiple episodes in multiple seasons.
You were playing an MP, weren't you? The husband of Detective Chief Superintendent Foyle's driver, Sam Stewart. Foyle played by Michael Kitchen, and Sam played by Honeysuckle Weeks.
Yeah, married to Honeysuckle Weeks' character. She and Michael Kitchen obviously playing the lead roles of that series for years and years, and I came in very close to the end, but with an amazing thing. I mean, she was an extraordinary person. I loved working with her. Really, really bright, funny.
Yeah.
I felt she really took care of me because I didn't know anything about TV, and she was just, I just thought, wow, really, really cool person, and great fun to work with. I did watch a bit of it when I noticed it was on Netflix, and I was really pleased with, how it looked all these years later. I was like, oh yeah, you can really see their relationship. And I'm always watching Michael. I remember standing and watching a scene with Michael I wasn't in, and seeing how up close, in the flesh, seeing how he could turn from being incredibly sharp and putting down of the person he was talking to and in control, to being very charming and very kind and caring. And he almost did nothing. You'd watch him and you'd go, oh, this person has a real problem with this person, and then later this person loves this person, and you think, what? How did I feel that so strongly when there was such little change? But I think that's a real testament.
I think it's that little moo he does, that little turn of the head, and you're just burning to imitate him.
When we did read-throughs for that, all the newbies who were coming onto those shows, when we all got together and we did, readings over a few days, because he's so charismatic, when you came out of them, we felt that we all suddenly started talking like him. Our intonation, it was phenomenal. And it was not conscious. It was just that there was something mesmerising about it. And so, it was pretty special.
And you've been doing something pretty special yourself, haven't you, for a few years now?
Yeah.
I suppose you could call it the Lord of the Rings backstory, though the Tolkien Middle-earth historical tome, The Silmarillion, is a bit more than just a backstory. Now, there's been 2 series so far, and it's called The Rings of Power.
First season filmed in New Zealand, 2020. Then with COVID, we sort of were delayed until middle of 2021. And then season 2 was sort of 22, 23, and we just finished season 3, just finished filming now. And that has been a really special journey, because whichever way I look, there are opportunities that I feel immensely privileged to have been given.
Right.
And things that I couldn't possibly really have dreamed of. Like, they really are the stuff that dreams are made of, i.e. the scale of the show, the ability of it to help the actors to tell a story with physical sets in studios that are just mesmerisingly fulfilled and complete and thought through and inspired. You can walk up to the wall of a set and the detail just keeps on coming. You get more and more focused. There's more and more detail. Even when you're infinitesimally close, there's a new thing that you haven't spotted. And I think for an actor to work in those environments can be really freeing, because it can help the imagination. And then also, having worked in locations in New Zealand, and then in Tenerife was my season 2 locations, literally the most awesome areas of the world, to get a chance to work there. Then with the people who worked on the show and the source material and going into this fantastical world, and then finding out that, in fact, the stranger who I've been playing, this sort of birthed creature that we've seen the very inception of within a crater falling from the sky,
From the stars.
He is going to be known as Gandalf, and assimilating that and knowing what Gandalf means as Tolkien's character to so many people and how loved he is. And it's been really humbling to talk to fans of the books and the films and our show about what characters can mean to people. Like, they have a very precious and personal relationship with imagined characters. And I think in the same way that we found with the book today, it's not surprising, because these things can resonate with us in ways our public guard doesn't have to be so protective. Our private selves can truthfully connect to character and can hold them and cherish them and interact with them in very personal ways. And so, being allowed to call myself Gandalf, or this character Gandalf, and have others call me, it was you think it's absolutely incredible for an actor to get that chance. So yeah, it's been really fun doing it.
And this must have been a great leaping off point for you.
I don't know. I mean, I think when I was 20 or 25, I really wanted everything to be a great leaping off point. And I think as I've got older and I've done more stuff and I've hopefully changed and learned both as a person but also as an actor, then I think my desire for those things has come into contact with what I actually truthfully want as a person, or what I hold dear, or what my core beliefs and, the way I want to live life, my values, I suppose. And within that, I think I've become much more accepting of the work being the important thing, of the fact that the thing that really makes me tick, the thing that gets my excitement going and my enthusiasm going, is the connection with fellow human beings and looking them in the eye and actually listening to them. And I think that's something I've been learning and getting better at. And so I think rather than seeing it as an opportunity to leap off into something better, or something that's going to pay more, or something that's going to give me more career opportunity, actually I'm in a place where I'm much more present with the fun and the nourishment of the job that's there at the time. Weirdly, I remember meeting a serious actor very early on when I was just taking a devised piece up to Edinburgh just after we left drama school, and we needed a part to be played by somebody who was much older than we were as students, and we asked some people to audition, and some of them were actually serious actors.
Right.
And one of them who came along to sort of work with this group of, who were we? Nobodies. They came along and they were unbelievably generous. They were brilliant, and at the end they gave us a bit of advice, which was try to be present with the piece that you're in.
Right.
He mentioned that so many actors, and I think I found this myself, that when you do a tour of, say, a regional theatre show, people can often say things like, oh, and of course the hope will be that it goes into the West End.
Yes.
And as a youngster, I probably found that very enticing, and if I wasn't careful, that became the reason for doing the play. And what this actor was saying was, find something in the play that you want to be doing for the play. Don't be doing it for the West End, because that's a surefire way of ruining any real experience you have with it. And if it doesn't go to the West End, you're going to be bitter about it, and have fun every night with it. Play it for the truth of it every night. And so I always try and stay in contact with that, because I think it's really cool advice for actors.
Daniel Weyman, even though it's only been one day's recording, it's been so lovely listening to your reading of Prater Violet.
Oh, thank you.
And thank you very much for your time.
Thanks very much.